So, good morning. Today I am going to take a class on endocrinology, in that pituitary gland and its disorders. Before going to take a pituitary gland and its disorders in proper, I am going to tell in brief about endocrine glands. So, endocrine glands, otherwise called ductless glands, because whatever the secretion from these glands or hormones directly poured into the bloodstream, not through any drug or tube. So endocrine glands in our body includes pituitary gland, including pineal gland, adrenal gland, thyroid gland, parathyroid gland, pancreas, ovaries, and testes. So what are the function of this endocrine glands? First and foremost thing is maintenance and regulation of vital function, response to the stress and injury, growth and development, energy metabolism, reproduction, fluid electrolytes, and acid base balance. These functions usually done by individual hormones. So coming to the subject, today's topic proper, that is pituitary gland and its disorder. So just I will brief about what is the anatomy and physiology of this pituitary gland. So pituitary gland also called master gland because it controls other endocrine glands located or situated at sella turcica in the base of the skull, influenced by hypothalamus, directly affect the function of other endocrine glands. It promotes growth of the body tissue, influences water absorption by the kidney, controls sexual development and function. So, what are the secretions of this pituitary gland? As you know, pituitary gland has two lobes. One is anterior lobe, otherwise called adenohypophysis. Second one is posterior lobe, otherwise called neurohypophysis. So, anterior lobe secretes hormones, that is ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone, TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, STH, somatotropic growth stimulating hormone, FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, LH, luteinizing hormone, PRL, prolactin, GH, growth hormone, MSH, melanocyte stimulating hormone. Secretion from the posterior lobe is ADH, that is antidiuretic hormone, otherwise called vasopressin and oxytocin. So, what is hypothalamo-pituitary axis? This hypothalamo-pituitary axis includes is hypothalamus, pituitary gland, and target glands like adrenal, thyroid, testes, ovary, liver, and lactation, that is breast. This pituitary axis, hypothalamo-pituitary axis, includes so whatever the hormones that is secreted from the hypothalamus, that is releasing hormone, regulates the anti-pituitary tropic hormones. This tropic hormone in turn regulates or determines the target organ secretions, that is from the adrenal gland or thyroid gland or testis ovary secretions, that is hormones into the blood. So this, whatever the peripheral hormones in the blood, negative feedback regulate the hypothalamus and pituitary hormones. So coming to the disorder of pituitary glands. So this pituitary gland disorder either may be increased secretion or hypersecretion or hyperactivity of pituitary gland, or it may be decreased secretion, hyposecretion or hypoactivity of pituitary gland. If it is hypersecretion or hyperactivity of anterior pituitary gland, results in gigantism, acromegaly, acromegalic gigantism, and Cushing disease. Like that, if it is hypersecretion or hyperactivity of posterior pituitary will result in SIADH, syndrome of inappropriate ADH secretion, that is antidiuretic hormone secretion. So like that, if it is hyposecretion or hypoactivity of anterior pituitary gland will result in dwarfism, acromicria, Sinman's disease. Like that, so hyposecretion or hypoactivity of posterior pituitary gland will result in diabetes insipidus. If the hyposecretion or hypoactivity of both anterior and posterior pituitary gland will result in dystrophia adipose genitalis. So today's topic is on hyperpituitarism. So hyperpituitarism is a excessive production or secretion of pituitary hormone, especially growth hormone and prolactin from the pituitary adenoma is called hyperpituitarism. So definition of hyperpituitarism is a chronic progressive disease marked by hormonal dysfunction and startling skeletal overgrowth. So uh, in endocrinology, the hyperpituitarism means always you think there is an increased secretion of growth hormone. So this increased secretion of growth hormone either in two forms. That is, one is gigantism, so affect infant and children before the epiphyseal closure, whereas acromegaly affects in adult after the epiphyseal closure. So today's topic is on, that is, acromegaly. So acromegaly will be taught under these headings, that is definition of acromegaly, etiology, clinical feature, investigation and treatment of acromegaly. So by definition, acromegaly is a chronic metabolic disorder in which there is a increased secretion of growth hormone that result in enlargement of the body tissue. So if you take the incidence of this acromegaly, so it occurs 6 in every 1 lakh individual. So age of onset is occurs in adulthood, usually in the middle age between 20 to 40 years. So coming to the etiology, or what are the causes for this acromegaly? So acromegaly can occur either due to excess secretion of growth hormone or due to excess secretion of GHRH, that is growth hormone releasing hormone. So excess secretion of growth hormone due to either pituitary gland itself or from the extra pituitary gland. So majority, almost 98% of this acromegaly is due to the non-cancerous pituitary adenoma, that is from the pituitary adenoma, followed by McCune-Albert syndrome, Carney's complex, that is pituitary tumor along with various other tumor involved, multiple endocrine neoplasia type 1. This also includes pituitary tumor. So extra pituitary causes are pancreatic islet cell tumor or lymphoma. If it is excess GHRH, that is growth hormone releasing hormone, occurs either the central cause or from the peripheral cause. Central cause is hypothalamic pituitary tumor, that is called hematoma. So peripheral cause is ectopic secretion of GHRH from the bronchial adenoma, bronchial carcinoid, pancreatic islet cell tumor, medullary carcinoma of thyroid, or pheochromocytoma. So what are the clinical feature of this acromegaly? So most common clinical feature in acromegaly is acral bony overgrowth. So patient will be in the tall stature. There is enlargement of hands and feet. There is a thickened toes and fingers. Enlargement of jaw, that is prognathism, and enlargement of forehead, that is frontal bossing. These all features look like acromegaly face, that is improper facial feature. Regarding soft tissue swelling, there is enlargement of lip and tongue that leads to the macroglasia, and enlargement of nose that leads to large fleshy nose, and along with enlargement of ears, and even uh, increase in heel pad thickness. Some patients notice there is an increased size in the ring, shoes, or hat. So this is the picture showing a acromegaly face where there is a enlargement of lip, there is an enlargement of nose, that is large fleshy nose, enlargement of jaw, that is prognathism, and there is a enlargement of forehead, that is frontal bossing, with enlargement of ear. So another picture showing a enlargement of hands and fingers, that is typical hand sign compared to the normal individual. So this is another picture that is shows that there is a all the signs and symptoms of acromegaly along with hand signs. This picture showed that there is a 22-year-old man with there is a identical twins. So one twin has got gigantism, so another twin is normal. So gigantism twin is due to excess growth hormone, which leads to the tall stature, prognathism, and enlarged hands and feet compared to the normal identical twin. So other clinical features are that is cutaneous manifestation includes thick skin, prominent palmar creases, forehead furrows, increase in syntag, acanthus nigricans, eatism, acne, increased sweating, and malodorous sebum secretion. If enlargement of visceral organs, that is like uh, hepatomegaly, splenomegaly, enlargement of heart in cardiomegaly, and goiter, that is enlargement of thyroid, is seen in acromegaly patient. If it is enlargement of larynx and paranasal sinus, leads to the thick sonorous voice. So cardiovascular changes that occurs in acromegaly is there is a result in cardiomyopathy and hypertension, which leads to the congestive cardiac failure, is a major causes for mortality in acromegaly patients. So there is a glucose intolerance is seen in acromegaly patients that leads to the hyperglycemia, glycosuria, leads to the pituitary diabetes mellitus. So acromegaly is one of the cause for secondary diabetes mellitus. In respiratory system, there is a central and obstructive sleep apnea syndrome you can see in acromegaly. So there is a musculoskeletal involvement also seen in acromegaly patient in the form of synovial edema that leads to entrapment neuropathies like carpal or tarsal tunnel syndrome. There is arthralgia, degenerative arthritis, and hyperexcitability of joints commonly seen in uh, acromegaly. These are directly related to the severity and duration of growth hormone excess. Some patients may experience a visual field defect or visual problem or visual loss along with headache, nausea. So these patients usually because of there is a mass effect over the optic asthma because of pituitary adenoma. If it is macroadenomas, the mass effect is more that result in the these symptoms. So this is a picture showing a visual field defect. There is common visual field defect in a acromegaly patient, that is bitemporal hemianopia if a mass effect over the optic chiasma or optic nerve or optic radiation. This is the vision what is seen in patient with acromegaly. This is bitemporal hemianopia. The one side of temporal side is patient is not seeing anything, whereas nasal side they are seeing pictures. So this is the clinical and laboratory finding in a acromegaly patient in a percentage wise. So almost 100% of patients will have a recent acral growth, 72% will have arthralgia, 91% patient will have excessive sweating, 88% will have a weakness, 68% have a malocclusion, 60 58% will have a new skin tag, 37% will have a hypertension, 44% will have a carpal tunnel, 30% will have a increased blood glucose, 68% will have a abnormal oral glucose tolerance, about 90 to 95% will have a increased heel pad thickness and increased cella volume. So coming to the investigation of acromegaly, most important is history and thorough physical examination. Because the patient is a tall stature, you have to measure the height and weight, other anthropometric measurements to know whether his patient has growth hormone excess or not. So you have to do oral glucose tolerance test. So failure to suppression of growth hormone after oral glucose load is considered as a diagnosis of acromegaly. That is, in a normal subject, if we give a 75 gram of glucose, growth hormone levels will be false less than 1 nanogram per ml. Whereas in acromegaly, this growth hormones remains unsuppressed. So blood test includes growth hormone level estimation, may be normal or increased because of pulsatility of growth hormone secretion is because of varies. One time it may be less, another time it may be more secretion. There is increased prolactin levels, increased insulin levels, increase insulin like growth factor 1 levels. So imaging studies very important in case of acromegaly patients, especially if you are suspecting pituitary tumors. So CT and MRI scan of brain is to rule out the pituitary adenomas. To rule out ectopic production of GHRH or GH secreting tumor, so you have to do MRI and CT of chest and abdomen. So radiological investigation like X-ray of skull reveals thickness of calarium, enlarged ear sinuses and mastoid cells. There is enlargement of cella along with there is a nuchal ligament calcification. So X-ray of hand showed toughening of terminal phalanx with soft tissue swelling. So X-ray of foot relieves increased heel pad thickness, that is more than 20 millimeter. X-ray of spine shows scoliosis with calcification of spinal ligament. So this is the picture of MRI showing that there is a pituitary adenoma, that is growth hormone secreting microadenoma, that is in the sagittal view. This is the X-ray of foot showing that increased heel pad thickness. So come to the treatment. There is a three modality of treatment in the acromegaly treatment. So one is surgical treatment, second one is radiotherapy, third is medical line of treatment. So surgical treatment is the first line of treatment, that is transsphenoidal adenectomy. So remove the pituitary tumor through the transsphenoidal approach will results in decrease in the growth hormone level as well as decrease the mass effect or pressure effect over the optic tract, that result in the decrease in the acromegaly symptoms. So these surgeries almost 90% is get a good result in microadenoma, whereas in macroadenoma only result will be less than 50%. So this is the picture showing the transperineal approach of pituitary adenectomy. To remove the pituitary through this transperineal approach is preferred. So second line of therapy is radiotherapy. If surgery is not providing complete cure, or if medical line of treatment is not helpful in a pituitary adenoma patients, this radiotherapy is used, but it takes several years to be effective. So, so external radiotherapy they given to pituitary adenomas is the dose of 4,500 to 5,000 rads. Recent days, there is a newer technique for treatment of acromegaly, stereotactic ablation of growth hormone secreting adenoma with help of gamma knife radiosurgery or linear accelerator. This is the newer surgery technique for treatment of acromegaly. Third line of treatment is medical line of treatment. This medical line of treatment is indicated those patients with radiotherapies is ineffective or waiting for radiotherapy to be effective or insufficient or incomplete removal of pituitary adenomas. In that situation, this medical line of treatment is used. So the drugs that include in the medical line of treatment is there is a three groups. That is one is somatostatin analog, second one is dopamine agonist, third one is growth hormone receptor blocker or antagonist. So somatostatin analog mainly reduces the growth hormone release. So drugs that is used is actrotide and pesirotride. Actrotide is a synthetic analog somatostatin with a dose of 50 to 200 microgram subcutaneous 8 hourly used for acromegaly patient. The side effect is a minimal, that is transient gastrointestinal symptoms, and there is a chance of increased incidence of gallstone. So newer drugs includes that is newer somatostatin analog pesirotride is mainly act on somatostatin receptor. So more useful in a tumor those who unresponsive to the conventional somatostatins. So second drugs that is used is dopamine agonist, that is bromocriptine. This is a old drug, so used since several years in the treatment of acromegaly, but result is very poor. That is very less. So oddly less than 15% of the patient will have a normalize of growth hormone with a dose of 10 to 30 milligram per day. So gabapentin is a long-acting dopamine 2 receptor agonist. So use it at the dose of 0.5 to 1 milligram daily. But efficacy, if you take a long-term efficacy of this gabapentin is same as that of bromocriptine. So third line of drugs therapies growth hormone receptor antagonist or growth hormone receptor blocker, that is pegvisomant. So it blocks the effect of growth hormone, but it doesn't have any effect on uh, release of growth hormone or block the growth hormone secretion. So only its effect is so effect of growth hormone will be blocked. So it also decreases the IGF-1 level, insulin like growth factor level, but it doesn't affect on tumor size. So it doesn't decrease the tumor size. In fact, it on the treatment course of treatment, it increases in the size of that pituitary tumor. So coming to the pituitary adenoma, it's the most common type of pituitary hormone hypersecretion or hyposecretion syndrome in adults. Is a benign tumor, accounts 15% of all intracranial neoplasm with prevalence of 18 every 1 lakh of individual. So depending upon size, there are two types, that is microadenoma and macroadenoma. Microadenomas are usually less than 10 millimeter size. So presentation of this microadenoma is usually more of hormone excess effect rather than the local mass effect. Whereas microadenoma size is more than 10 millimeter, usually they presented with a pressure effect or mass effect over the optic chiasma, result in the visual field defect. Here is hormone excess is very less. Let's come to the classification of pituitary adenoma. So these pituitary adenomas arises from one of the five anterior pituitary cells, either from the lactotrope or somatotrope or corticotrope or thyrotrope or gonadotrope. So clinical and biochemical phenotypes of pituitary adenoma depend upon the cell type which they derived. So most common type of this pituitary adenoma is prolactinoma, that is arise from the lactotrope. So these are the adenoma cell origin, hormone secreted, and what is the disease that occurs in that individual hormone effect. If it is lactotrope, so release the prolactin hormone, result in hypogonadism or galacturia. Gonadotropin releases a FHS, LHS, it causes a hypogonadism. Somatotrope releases a growth hormone, so it results in acromegaly or gigantism. Like corticotropes, ACTH is the hormone, will result in Cushing syndrome, Cushing disease. Thyrotrope releases the hormone THS, it leads to the thyrotoxicosis. So most common pituitary edema is tumor arises from the lactotrope, that is prolactinomas. So clinical feature of pituitary adenoma is mainly I already told, either due to the mass effect or due to the hormone excess. So symptoms suggestive of hormone excess or deficiency, or due to mass effect or pressure effect, patient will have a visual field defect, headache, nausea because of compression of optic chiasma. So investigations to find out pituitary adenoma is imaging study, that is CT brain and MRI brain. To know visual field defect, we'll use the perimetry, that is ophthalmic evaluation. So most common visual field defect is bitemporal hemianopia or superior bitemporal defect. So hormone evaluation is very important. So basal prolactin level you have to measure to know whether patient has hypogonadism or not. T3, T4, THS level to know whether patient has thyrotoxicosis or not. 24 hours urine free cortisol or overnight dexamethasone suppression test to know whether patient has Cushing disease. FSH, LSH to know hypogonadism. Insulin-like growth factor level to know whether patient has acromegaly or gigantism. So treatment of pituitary adenoma is again is three modality of treatment, that is surgery, radiotherapy and medical line of treatment. Surgery is pituitary adenectomy through the transepidural approach. Radiation with a dose of 180 rats daily or 5000 rats in divided dose over 6 weeks. So medical line of treatment is those with prolactinomas use dopamine agonists like bromocriptine or gabapentin. Those with acromegaly or THS secreting tumor use stomatostatin analog, that is actreotide or fesotrotide. Those with ACTH secreting tumor usually not respond to the medication, so requires surgery in these conditions. Coming to the prolactinoma is a most common type of pituitary adenoma that is arising from the lactotrope. This constitutes about more than 50% of all the functioning pituitary tumors, with a prevalence of 10 in every 1 lakh individual in case of male. In case of female, 30 in every 1 lakh individual. So mixed tumor also you can see, that is prolactin with growth hormone secretion tumors, prolactin with ACTH secreting tumors, very rarely prolactin with THS secreting tumor. This prolactinoma or frequently causes organic hyperprolactin. They form about 40 to 50% of all pituitary adenomas. Like pituitary adenomas, prolactinomas, macroadenomas, and microadenoma. This microadenoma constitute about 65 to 70% of prolactinomas. Size of microadenoma is less than 10 millimeter, whereas macroadenoma is more than 10 millimeter. Macroadenomas locally invasive to the adjacent structure, whereas microadenoma don't invasive. If we take the sex ratio, female to male ratio in case of microadenoma is 20:1. So that indicates more common in females compared to the males. Whereas macroadenoma is equal in both the sex with ratio of 1:1. Prolactin level decide whether it's macroadenoma or microadenoma. If prolactin level is more than 250 microgram per liter, indicates that macroadenomas. So men tends to present a large tumor compared to the women's, possibly because feature of male hypogonadism is less readily evident. So majority of prolactinomas are remains stable or slow growing tumor in the rest of the life, because that prolactin level will be stable in the most of the cases. So about 5% of microadenoma is progress to macroadenoma in the future or in the long term duration. So clinical feature of prolactinoma again is due to mass effect or pressure effect. Patient will have a headache, visual field defects. Galactur- galactu- Galacturia is 30 to 80% of women, about 33% in case of males. There is a suppression of gonadal function seen in both males as well as in female. In case of women, patient will have amenorrhea, irregular menses, menses with infertility. As in case of males, decreased libido, partial or complete impotency or infertility. Both the patients, both male and female patient will have a decreased bone density, and there is a fluid retention with increased body weight. So investigation of this prolactin mass is to measure the prolactin level. If it is more than 200 microgram per liter, is a diagnostic of prolactinomas. To know visual field defect, perimetry is used. Thyroid hormone level is estimation very important in case of prolactinoma, because primary hypothyroidism can cause elevation of prolactin that is mediated by high TRH level. So MRI brain is to know the microadenomas, even as small as 2 to 3 millimeter can detect with help of this MRI brain. So coming to the treatment of prolactinoma, again three modality of the treatment, that is medical, surgical and radiotherapy. So our aim of treating a hyperprolactinemia is to normalize prolactin levels relieve the symptoms, shrinkage of the tumor. So surgery is indicated for those who are intolerant or resistant to dopamine agonist, that is, those who are resistant to medical line of treatment, or those who invasive macroplatinoma that don't shrink adequately with medical line of treatment. In spite of medical treatment, macroadenomas are doesn't going to shrink. In that situation, surgery is indicated. So radiotherapy is mainly reserved for aggressive tumor and not respond to the medical line of treatment. So medical line of treatment is the first line of treatment in the prolactinomas. So drugs that common is dopamine agonist, that is bromocriptine and gabapentin. So bromocriptine is the dose of 2.5 to 20 milligram per day, 2 to more divided doses. So it causes reduction of prolactin level to normal in case of 60 to 100% patients. Clinical symptoms are relieved in 1 to 3 months. Tumor shrinkage occurs in 70 to 90% of cases. So newer drug, that is gabapentin, long-acting D2 receptor agonist, dose is 0.5 milligram to 1 milligram. So here is prolactin level will be suppressed for 7 to 14 days. So hence weekly dose is sufficient. So these are the questions. So you have to answer within 3 days and mail to the our mail address, medicine department mail address. Thank you.